Welcome to Charts Today Energy. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 23rd of March, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at crude oil, the main driver in energy, of course, and looking at Brent crude. Here I have my desktop. You can grab this desktop. I'm running on Bloomberg and Trayport for European OTC data this morning. And so you can go and grab these desktops from our libraries here. And if you just look in Trayport, for example, you'll find the Charts Today layout. And so basically I have my Bloomberg instruments here for my exchange data. This could be from Thomson Reuters Icon, from a whole host of feeds like DTN or TeleTrader, but here today I'm using Bloomberg. And so the key thing here is we start by looking at crude oil. These are my long-term charts, my medium-term charts, and my short-term charts. This is a weekly 1% point and figure log scale, 0.5% point and figure log scale on a daily chart, 60-minute chart, and a 0.1% point and figure log scale. So this is long-term, medium-term, short-term. So crude oil is above the cloud on the lagging line and the price in the long term, but medium term we are seeing that we are just breaking down, and this is looking pretty bad for crude actually. We're below the cloud. We've recovered a little bit this morning somewhat. We're at 51 again. 51 is a very critical level on this cloud, but I am concerned the amount of time we're hanging around at this level and below the cloud. So it's looking pretty bearish at the moment. Interestingly, if we look at the short-term point and figure targets, we've got downside targets to 47, 48, and 48. So about 4.5%, 5% downside, 7.5% downside on this big one that was given back in early March. We have got a new upside target this morning on this thrust, 52.63, but that's not activated yet. So crude is looking pretty bearish. WTI, much the same thing. We're very clearly below the cloud here. And hung around below this $50 level now on WTI. We've activated a downside target of 37, that's 22% downside, and we've got targets to 44, 45, 47, 45. This is a strong time of year. Crude normally goes up in the first quarter, at least certainly the first half of the year, and this is very early in the year to be falling away like this. Oil inventories causing a main concern here, but the interesting thing is that we are now pretty much in bearish territory on this medium-term chart with a downside target activated. So don't be surprised to start seeing crude oil going lower, back into the 40s. That's going to have an overall effect on energy. Looking at US NatGas, holding on to the $3 level at the moment, but again, it's bearish in the medium term. Bullish in the long term, bullish in the short term, but a mixed picture generally. Downside target of 296 there, so just be aware of that as well. Heating oil, very similar to crude on the charts, below the clouds here. Looking bearish as well. New lows would activate this downside target. We've already got these downside targets still hanging over us, 3 and 5% downside, 7% downside if we start making new lows again. So that's quite worrying. RBOB is actually bullish above the cloud on all three charts. It's the one thing in the energy mix that is looking pretty good. Coal, we see here that we're below the cloud on the short-term chart. We do have a little bit of a recovery in train here. But we are seeing medium-term weakness being dragged down. If we look at emissions, this is the ICE contract. Bearish below the cloud in the short term and the medium term and the long term. So emissions just looking pretty bearish all round, really. There will be some recovery spikes, but on the whole, this is a bearish market. Looking at the exchange traded NBP on ICE, we see here on the front month contract that we are bearish below the cloud on the medium and long term charts. We've got a 17% downside and a 5% downside on the short term. And TTF, similar picture, 25% downside to 11 euro 69. So looking pretty bearish, just falling away very strongly in recent weeks, and we see that here below the cloud, so no signs of any recovery there. Just looking at currencies, we start with the dollar index. just still, the dollar has been selling off since the Fed announcement, but we are just testing support. If we go lower than this level, 99.50, that was set at the end of January, that would be bearish for the dollar medium term. But at the moment, the medium term and the long term are just holding up. Is this a bottom? This is the key thing. Can the dollar rally from here? We're seeing the euro holding on just to its short-term bullishness, but hitting quite clear resistance here at about 108 on the medium-term chart, with lots of downside targets. The euro still looking pretty poor. And sterling is managing to continue its run at the moment, just above the 125 level as well. And we see here on the euro sterling rate, that's really showing through. Now going to European OTC data. This data are all running off your Trayport dual trading platform. So if you've got Trayport, the beauty of the dual direct or dual SaaS platform is that all the codes are the same. So you can literally take these watch lists from me and follow me. Now I don't have a lot of dual history because you need the broker agreements for that, and our way around that is to basically stitch those contracts together with our own OTC data. So if you're new to dual and you haven't got history, this is a great way to do it. If you're running and copying this same layout in Updater, it will just get your dual data straight away. And of course, you can go from the dual charts direct. So if we're looking at MBP, I can go straight away to the updated chart from dual, and this will load the Trayport data that you have in your system. And so straight away I can just out of the box get my trends and targets. So I can see here on the 1 minute, this is all venues MBP. Another great thing about dual direct is it joins all of those venues together. We've got downside targets 38.20, 37.50. Now your targets might be slightly different from mine, depending on which brokers you're signed up for with your dual system. If you've got all brokers, you'll have much more detailed data than this. Taking a look at the front month though, we see here on the weekly, the daily, we're still just bearish here. We are, if I just go on that chart, NG months, we're bearish here, bearish on the short term as well, where we cross below the cloud, just finding new lows all the time. We've got downside target here on MBP front month of 37.88. This is the continuous chart. Updater stitches all of those charts together for you so that you can do proper analysis on the long term. And of course, this data goes back, the Updater OTC data goes back 10 years. Your own Trayport dual data will go back as far as you've had Trayport. Looking at winter seasons, we see here we're bearish as well below the cloud, so that's looking pretty bearish. And on the prompt markets, got a new downside target here, 36.14, which is a further 9% downside. That's just really no signs of a bottom there. And the same on day ahead charts as well. So we can see here that we've got downside targets to play for. Don't forget to take a look at the 1 minute charts like we just did on that MBP. So you can do this on any chart. So this is on the front month, and we're seeing here for April, this is just the April contract. We've still got further to fall. That 40 target was given on the 15th of March at 41.65. 41.10 was where we were targeted to. We just overshot that. We've had these targets given 7th of March. We had another target given at 38.20. That's where we're headed next. So keep an eye on those 1 minute charts for your analysis. A really powerful aspect of using Updater with Trayport. Looking at TTF, pretty bearish here too. We're below the cloud. This is the 60-minute chart, remember. So we are just seeing here that we are below the cloud, just heading lower all the time. And the same is true of the winter summer and day ahead. Looking at NCG, we are bearish here as well, below the cloud. Downside targets to 15.30, 15.42, and Gazpool much the same. So we're seeing quite a bit of bearishness creeping in there too. German baseload, so looking at power markets now, power just heading lower all the time. So really very worrying there as well. And we're looking here at the quarters, the months. We're seeing here downside targets, fresh lows. Looking at French power, less liquidity here. on my charts. Again, the more brokers you have, the more these charts will have data in. And looking at Euro base load, we're seeing here we're below the clouds as well, as we are on French base load and Dutch power as well. So Dutch power just going below Italy and Spain. So really quite key there that we're just seeing all these markets looking pretty bearish. So that's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.